The morning breeze was filled with purpose as people in the streets of Chicago chased their dreams. Among them was a man who had already fulfilled his. Alexander Grant, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, stood gazing down from the 52nd floor of his private office. To the world, he was powerful, successful, and untouchable. But behind the expensive suit and media headlines hid a man who was empty inside, drowning in loneliness and burdened by forgotten pain. He had everything, yet no reason to live. It was supposed to be an ordinary Tuesday filled with meetings and calls, but his eyes suddenly fixated on a scene outside. At the corner of the street stood two children, maybe 7 or 8 years old, on an old wooden crate, holding a cardboard sign, "Selling our toy car to help our mom." Alexander squinted. Kids often sold things on the street, but there was something about these twins. Their eyes held a mix of determination and helplessness that struck his soul. They held each other's hands like they had no one else in the world. People passed by, some glancing, some ignoring. No one stopped. Alexander abruptly changed his plan and left the meeting, something he hadn't done in years without his driver. As he stepped out into the street, the cold breeze tousled his hair. The kids straightened as they saw him approach. One had curly hair, the other wore an oversized, worn-out jacket. Sadness and hope shone equally in their eyes. "Hello," Alexander said softly, kneeling to their level. "I saw your sign." "What happened?" The boy with curly hair hesitated. "We're selling our favorite toy car. Our mom is in the hospital. We don't have money for her medicine." Alexander looked at the little red toy car, its color faded, wheels broken. Clearly, it had been played with lovingly. "How much?" The girl, who looked slightly older, bravely replied, $10. "It's special to us, but Mom is more special." Her voice quivered at the end. Tears welled up in Alexander's eyes. "I'd like to buy it," he said, handing over a $10 bill, though he knew it wasn't enough. "Can I speak to your mom's doctor?" The children hesitated. They'd been taught not to trust strangers. But there was something so gentle in his voice, they told him the hospital's name. A few hours later, Alexander sat in a hospital room with Dr. McKinney. Weariness and lack of resources were evident in her eyes. "Their mom, Emily Carter, has advanced lupus. The medications are expensive, and her insurance is inadequate," the doctor explained. Alexander didn't need to hear more. "Do whatever is needed. I'll cover the costs." The doctor was stunned. "Mr. Grant, that could run into hundreds of thousands." "I don't care." The next day, when he entered Emily Carter's room, the scene broke his heart. She was fragile, face pale, eyes sunken, as if clinging to her last breaths. Her trembling hands tried to lift a glass of water. "Why did you help us?" she asked in a weak voice. Alexander paused for a moment. "Because someone once helped my mom when the world turned away." It was a story he rarely told. As a child, he too stood on a street, not with a toy, but with his little sister, who cried from hunger. His mother worked 3 jobs and collapsed one winter evening. A stranger gave them food and a few $100s, a new beginning. That day, he swore that if he ever succeeded, he'd become that stranger for someone else. Within weeks, Emily began to recover. Alexander visited often. He was no longer just a CEO, but a man rediscovering peace. The twins, Ella and Ethan, now called him Mr. Alex, and their laughter filled the empty spaces of his heart. One day, he invited them to his company. He gave them a tour, introduced them to his staff, and let them play in the tech lab. When asked what they wanted to become, Ella said, "I want to create things that heal people." Ethan replied, "I want to make money, so my family never hurts again." One rainy evening, the 3 of them sipped cocoa in the hospital cafe. Emily, now much healthier, looked at Alexander with tears in her eyes and said, "You didn't just save my life, you gave my children their future. You gave me hope." Alexander smiled softly and wiped a tear. "You gave them strength. I only reminded them they're not alone. Years passed. Ella and Ethan grew into intelligent, courageous young adults. Ella became a biomedical engineer researching autoimmune diseases. Ethan founded an organization to help children of sick parents. At every milestone, graduation, birthdays, awards, Alexander was in the front row, clapping the loudest. And that red toy car? It still sat in a glass case in his office, protected from time, a reminder of the day everything changed. Because sometimes, the smallest hands carry the heaviest burdens, and still have the strength to lift others. And sometimes, the richest people are those weighed down not by wealth, but by memories, of hunger, loneliness, and pain, who then become shelter for others. Their lives were never the same again. And neither was Alexander's.